Thank you so much, Sir Mohamed Abouabdellah, for this clarification and explanation and for answering this question that was provided by Mr. For answering this question that was provided by Mr. Abidi. In your experience, which of the core principles of effective English language teaching do teachers most often ignore? You have been introducing several principles based on your experience. Which one teachers mostly ignore?
Okay, it's not a matter of ignorance. It's just a matter of having. It's a bit challenging one. The most challenging one is how to be inclusive, how to engage all students, how to develop inclusive practices, how to engage all the students in all the stages of needs. That's the most challenging. But believe me that a lot of teachers manage to develop, make use of different techniques each time they think of different techniques and strategies to help engage all students. This is the most challenging, is how to be inclusive, how to be engaging, how to cover the whole class, how to enable students, how to enable all the students to give a chance, equal chances to all students, whether they are low achievers or high achievers again, because high achievers sometimes get bored. They think that it's too easy. How to include everyone, mixed level class, mixed ability class, that's the biggest challenge. But that's why I focus on this, on those strategies. I focus on these principles. I focus on those strategies because I know that these are the best ways to engage all the students in different lesson, different stages of the lesson.
Good evening, distinguished professor, esteemed professors, researchers, and colleagues. First and foremost, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to our distinguished guest speaker for honoring us with his presence today, despite his many responsibilities and commitments. So I would like also to express my sincere appreciation to Dr. Marwan Sakran, the director of Bitlisaniyat Academy, Dr. Safiya Kassas, the vice director, Dr. Abdelkader Bitwati, the director of the linguistics team, and Professor Yassin Jamal Idrisi, the executive director of the academy, for their outstanding contributions and collaboration in making these events possible. Special thanks to Professor Mohamed Qaddouri for hosting today's technical session, and Professor Abdul Fattah Abidi for documenting this discussion as our rapporteur. It's an honor to welcome you this evening to the critical discussion for principles of effective English language learning and teaching. Teaching English is not merely about transmitting knowledge. It is a dynamic interplay of materials, methods, skills, and assessment, all guided by the qualities of an effective teacher and the strategies that foster students' autonomy and fluency. As Frank Smith aptly observed, language is not a genetic gift, it is a social gift. Learning a new language is becoming a member of the club, the community, of speakers. This reminds us that language learning thrives on engagement, interaction, and thoughtful pedagogy. Benjamin Franklin's timeless words reinforce this. Say through tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. Therefore, what we need to teach English effectively. So, what we need in order to teach English effectively? This is a question that is addressed to us all as practitioners or researchers or teachers of English. Tonight, we delve into a lecture that our host, Professor Mohamed Abouabdellah, a supervisor in English language teaching community with 60 years of 16 years of classroom experience, a Fulbright fellowship at Kent State University, and transformative work as an elite supervisor since 2018. His insights will undoubtedly alter our path forward. So, Professor Abdullah, the
Okay,
floor is yours.
Mohamed Abouabdellah. Right.
Yes, Professor Mohamed Abouabdellah, sorry, the floor is yours.
It's fine. Thank you so much, Mr. Hmad Benaissa. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Abdel Habidi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank Home of Linguistics International Academy in Turkey for inviting me to take part in this webinar series, and the Linguistic Research and Language Planning team. And of course, my special gratitude goes to Mr. Hmad Benaissa for inviting me to take part in this webinar and for coordinating this event. I'd like also to thank all the attendees and followers, teachers, supervisors, and professors, and all educators, and students, and everyone interested in English language teaching and learning for joining us online. The title of this webinar is Core Principles of Effective English Language Teaching and Learning. So today we're going to see a range of principles or fundamental tenets of effective English language teaching and learning. In other words, how are we going to make our teaching and learning English classes more effective? This is based on several years, my humble experience in classroom observation as a supervisor in working in different directorates in Yusufia, in Sidifni, and now I'm currently in Shukait Baha. All right, so I'm so pleased to share with you a bunch of thoughts, a bunch of principles, ideas, practical ideas on how to teach and learn, because the focus should not be just on teaching, it's also on learning. It's a combination of both teaching and learning, English language. So let me share, first of all, the outline. I'd also like to remind the attendees that your comments, your ideas are highly appreciated. So this webinar is going to be as interactive as possible. So feel free to write your thoughts, to write your comments, to write your ideas. We'd like also to learn from your teaching experience as far as this topic is concerned. So the outline of this lecture is as follows. First of all, we're going to define altogether effective teaching and learning. What is effective teaching and learning? Later on, we're going to move on to what makes an effective teacher. How can we make our teaching more effective? What are some qualities of an effective English language teacher? After that, we will highlight some features of a successful lesson in comparison to unsuccessful lesson. So it's a kind of opportunity to share teaching experiences. Sometimes we manage to have a very effective lesson, but sometimes we overcome, we encounter some challenges that, of course, doesn't help to make the lesson more successful. Afterwards, we're going to pinpoint core principles of effective teaching and learning. In other words, what are various tenets that we need to take into account while we teach English effectively, and also taking that into consideration when we address students. So effective teaching and learning is not just about principles, it's also about strategies. Okay, so we're going to see a bunch of effective teaching strategies and how they are going to target and boost students' language learning strategies. So the focus is not just on teaching strategies, but also on learning strategies. And last but not least, we will shed light on a set of criteria of an effective lesson plan, an effective lesson. So these are kind of criteria that we need to take into account while we plan our lesson and while we deliver the lesson. And finally, we will see how to design an effective lesson plan. Then we'll wrap up by the end. Okay, so let's start with icebreaker. So we usually start with a warm-up or a warmer or an icebreaker, and it's highly related to the theme of this, to the title of this presentation, which is success. What does success? So everybody wants to make success in our lives and in our profession, our career, in our teaching specifically, our career specifically. The question is, what does success stand for? In other words, you have success, you have S, U, C, C. What does each one stand for? What are some practical steps that can help us make a success, make our profession as successful as possible? So feel free to write in the comments, in the chat box. S, for example, you can choose a noun or you can choose a short sentence with a verb starting with S, for example. So I'll give you some time to think about it. And at the same time, these are some practical steps on how to reach success, how to make our profession successful. So feel free to think, to share some practical steps, starting with those letters, S, U, C, and so on. So Hmad, Benaissa, in case you have some ideas, feel free to share them. Mr. Abdelfatah Habidi.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe waiting for the others to join.
Okay,
I'm sure maybe, I think it's clear. It's a kind of game. It's a kind of game, right?
So the followers or researchers or participants should provide a word that starts with the S and
Or
a
they
word
can
that starts
choose
with
anyone. They can choose anyone, right?
yes.
Set goals. Okay, good. So we have one.
Good.
In order to make a success, we need to set some goals, especially set SMART goals. This is just one way. You have different options. You have different alternatives. Good, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Salah Shaki. Okay, set clear or SMART goals. This is one way, and feel free to suggest other letters: U, C, C, E, S, S. Okay. So, and of course, SMART goals means SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely or time bound. Okay. All right, strategies. We need strategies. Okay, thank you so much. So it's not only just about principles, it's about strategies we mentioned before. So we're going to pinpoint to highlight some of those strategies, be they teaching strategies or learning strategies. Okay, any more? So you have start. So this is start. Maybe start small. Start small, then you grow bigger and bigger. It's also possible. You need to start small, but grow little by little. Serving, we need to serve. So teaching a kind of serving, we need to serve our students. We have standards using technology for you. Creativity, that's right. We need some room for creativity and innovation, and using different materials, including technology. So it's a combination of traditional materials and also digital materials. All right. Okay. So, thank you so much for your comments. You can still have more. So this is one way of making a success. First of all, set smart goals. As one of our colleagues, Mr. Saleh Shaki, our colleague, said, set smart goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals. You understand the situation. If we don't understand the situation, which we were, making a kind of diagnosis of student situation, working situation. It's not easy to make success if we don't understand that situation and the working and learning conditions. You have unleash potentials. Somebody said here, unleash. Yes, we need to unleash our potentials. Feel free. Let students unleash their skills, their potentials, their capacities. Create a positive mental picture. So being positive towards any situation, okay, any working conditions, being positive, thinking positively can help us achieve those goals. Clear your mind of self-doubt. So we need to trust ourselves. We need to believe in our project. We need to believe in what we do, and let also students trust themselves, believe in their capacities and their potentials. Embrace the challenge, or E. I'm sure that teaching and learning is not as easy as maybe some would think. It's full of challenges, but accepting those challenges, embracing those challenges is the first step to look for alternatives, look for ways to overcome them. Okay, so it's both full of teaching challenges and also of learning challenges by students. So if we develop those kinds of problem-solving skills, this can help us look for alternatives to those challenges. Stay track. Okay, we need to make sure that we are on the right way. We stay on target. Okay, so each time we need to do a kind of reflection. We reflect and see where we go. We'll go how to have this sense of direction. So each time we need to make pauses and make kind of regular assessment of what we do, and also enable students to have this regular assessment of what they learn, so that we can make sure that we are on the right way. And last but not least, we need to show to the world that we can do it. If we believe that you can, okay, we are sure that you will have this spirit of taking the initiative, and also develop the spirit of taking the risk on the part of students, to believe that we can achieve, though it's not easy, though we have a lot of challenges, though we struggle, we're going to make it. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for you. We have also other seeds of success. That's right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohamed Abouabdellah. Seeds of success. So success is the outcome. Of course, we need to go through different steps. We need to go through sometimes failures. We're going to outcome of a lot of efforts of sowing the seeds. Okay, thank you so much. And it's really related to the topic of this lecture. Now let's move on to define these two concepts: effective teaching and learning. And through this technique of brainstorming. So, in your opinion, what are think of some ideas or keywords that best define effective teaching and learning? What is effective teaching and learning? So feel free again to write down any ideas that are related to effective teaching and learning. Before, of course, we provide with a definition. Or in other words, how are we going to make our teaching and learning more effective? What are some key issues that we need to take into account? And that these issues can help define effective teaching and learning.
Could we say, for example, good preparation at home? For example, preparing a good lesson plan?
Yes, planning well, planning and preparation. Okay, prior planning and preparation. It's one way that helps, make teaching and learning effective. All right, maybe take some time to write in the comments, maybe from Facebook to this. Yes. Okay, we have one here. Keep students grow intellectually and emotionally. Thank you. Which means that our focus is on students and how to help them grow intellectually and emotionally. Okay. Another one, knowledge. It's all about knowledge. So strategies, processes, and behavior. So it's not just about language or knowledge. It's all about the how, the what and the how, and processes and behaviors. Engaging students with activities. So effective teaching and learning is much more concerned about engaging students, learning through playing, fun learning. Okay, it should be student-centered, catering for different abilities and levels. Okay, these are comments by some educators here. Okay, effective teaching and learning is the one that yields good results. So the focus on not just on the processes, but also on the results, on the outcomes by the end. Okay, so it's not just about knowledge, because now knowledge is spread everywhere. Okay, online we have plenty of online resources, but it's all about the how and processes and principles that yield to better results. Okay, and it's no longer teacher-centered. The teacher is not the only source of knowledge, maybe like before. Now we have plenty of resources, so it's rather learner-centered instruction. I think these are some definitions provided by some teachers so far. Okay, to ensure interactionability. Yeah, which means that we need to ensure this interaction, should make it more interactive. The more interactive our teaching is, the more successful it becomes. So it's no longer the teacher takes control of everything. It's more about involving students' interaction, varying ways of interaction. Okay. Fine. All right. So this is one of the definitions provided by James Coe and Pamela Sammons. Effective teaching and learning is generally referred to in terms of a focus on student outcomes. So our focus here is on student outcomes, which is mentioned by one of the teachers there. Focus on student outcomes, and the teacher practices, best teaching practices, and classroom processes, the how, different steps that we need to go through, we need to take into account, different actions that promote better learning outcomes. In other words, it's more about how to turn, so it's not about just setting smart goals or setting specific objectives at the beginning of the lesson. It's the how to turn those objectives into learning outcomes by the end of the lesson, by the end of the unit, and so on. Okay, so it's a shift from the teacher performance into students' performance, students' okay, outcomes, learning outcomes. All right. So here another one by Mohamed Abouabdellah, match the classroom with the real world. That's right. So it's also incorporating real life learning. Okay, we should take into account students' prior immediate environment, real life world, to make teaching and learning more meaningful to students. Okay, fine. Now, we defined effective teaching and learning. Now let's define, or let's list some qualities of an effective teacher. Everybody wants to make a success. Everyone wants to be as effective as possible. Okay, what are some qualities that best describe, or the profile, that profile of an effective teacher, or English language teacher, to be more specific, is someone who, so it's about qualities, it's about principles, it's about some characteristics that we need some skills also that we need to learn, to acquire each time. So what are some of those qualities that can make our teachers more effective? Can you again suggest some of the qualities that we may have, but we need to develop each time? The more we practice, the more we work, the more qualities we develop. Well, preparation, as Mr. Ahmed Benaissa said before, maybe planning, well preparation, and be engaged for his job, dedication to your job, approachable, communicative, patient, active listener, respectful. So we have plenty of qualities that we need, of course, to develop. Is someone, a good teacher, someone who engages students in learning? Okay, wonderful, great. So we have here a bench of ideas of what makes an effective teacher. All right. So preparation is priority, and engagement or dedication, commitment to one's job. All right, so let's, yes, he's someone who knows his students very well, yes. As we see before, we need to understand the situation. The situation includes students, their weaknesses and strengths. So it's this is done through usually diagnosis, done at the beginning of the year, which is not only about language awareness, language knowledge, also about the how, it's also about students' personality, students' needs, and so on. This can help us a lot. The teacher should be free of bias and very inspirational, right? Source of inspiration for students. It should be a planner, objective-oriented, productive, resourceful communicator. All right. So someone who presents language in different ways, who develops professionally, who seeks to develop each time through taking part in different in-service trainings or belonging to professional communities. Okay. So we have great ideas on the part of educators here. Thank you so much for this. So here, an effective teacher is someone who has a clear vision. Somebody talked about goals, a planner. So you don't just plan for the lesson, you plan for the whole year, you plan for your whole career. So you should have in mind those short-term goals and long-term goals. To have a clear vision means to have this sense of direction, to have a kind of project that you want to implement, professional project. Uh, all right. Somebody says teacher is an effective teacher is someone who cares for inclusivity and varied learning styles. Okay, thank you. So, as other teachers said, an effective teacher is someone who caters for students' needs and values them. If we understand students' needs and interests, and we value them, means we don't underestimate their potentials. They may not necessarily be good at English, but they may be good at other areas. So we need to value them. We need, because here they are intelligent. They are not that intelligent at English. They can be intelligent in different areas. So valuing them can motivate those students. An effective teacher is someone who knows well the subject matter. So it's a matter of planning, preparation, but it's a matter also of mastering your subject matter. And we know that example of English, it's updated each time. So we need to keep ourselves updated with any latest findings, any latest updates in language teaching and learning. Okay, an effective teacher is someone who is well prepared. And preparation is not necessarily related to lesson planning, it's also mental preparation, moral, psychological preparation. Is someone who engages and challenges students. Somebody mentioned someone who is engaging, who is thinking of how to involve students, but also how to challenge students, especially those high achievers. Sometimes we need to challenge them so that they can move on to the higher level. An effective teacher is someone who teaches lifelong lessons. Means lessons that are unforgettable, that stay in our minds. We usually remember those teachers who have a great impact on our lives. So teaching those lifelong lessons, enhancing this lifelong learning. So we don't just teach to the test or for the exam, we teach to the objective. We teach students as lifelong learners, for lifelong learners. We help them maintain that lifelong learning, because they're going to need English not just for the exam, not just for middle school or high school. They're going to need that English in their future career and their future lives. An effective teacher is someone who has efficient communication skills, who is more interactive, more communicative, more approachable, as one of the teachers said, okay, to students. And we have here these qualities are not inclusive. We have more, because the more we work, the more we find that we need to develop more qualities. So also, as Mr. Abdulatif Zakar said, the teacher should be as a lifelong learner. So if we treat ourselves as teachers, we will never learn. We treat ourselves as lifelong learners, not only students. Thank you so much, C. Abdul. Okay, I think these are some ideas here mentioned by colleagues. All right, fine. As I said, it's not inclusive. We have plenty of qualities that we need to develop each time. That's why we need to keep on learning each time, keep on growing, having this growth mindset that is ready to grow each time. Okay, now we're going to share some of somebody's a motivator. So it's, as I said, it's not just about knowledge, it's not just about skills, it's also about that psychological atmosphere in the classroom. Motivator, someone who boosts this motivation. Okay. All right. So now we're going to share some of your teaching experiences. Okay. We're going to move down to specific issues related to teaching and learning. Okay. And maybe before, so here the purpose here is to share. We're going to draw on your experience as teachers and share with us some features of a successful lesson. Maybe a lesson that you'll never forget, one of your best unforgettable lessons you still remember. What makes it more successful? But sometimes we feel that it's not our day, everything doesn't go well, and we feel that our lessons are not that successful, are not that effective. Why? So it's through a kind of reflection. So before we come up to this, I invite you to watch this video, okay, here, which is about elements of a good lesson plan. And this can help us discuss, share ideas about effective lessons or effective lesson plan. So let's listen together. Okay. I don't know if is there any way to see. Is there any way to play it? Because it doesn't.
Yes, is it within the PowerPoint?
Yes.
You can
Normally,
just click on the video and it starts automatically. Or you can try the other way through present, as if you are trying to share with us the presentation. Present and choose the video.
So are they going to listen to it? Because normally it's in here.
No, you can try the other way.
Okay, from my laptop, yes?
Yes, from the laptop. You click from present. Click on present, then choose
because
video.
here it shows, but there, because here it's there, it's visible, but not in that.
No, in the platform where we
hopefully
don't see.
they can listen to it. So let's see.
Elements of a good lesson plan. Teaching is much more likely to be successful when guided by
voice is clear.
a complete lesson plan. The key elements of a good lesson plan include objectives, timing, sequencing, differentiation, assessment, and materials. The first important question you should ask when designing a lesson plan is, what will students learn in this lesson? Think about the specific knowledge, skills, awareness, and language you want students to learn in the lesson. Make the objectives reasonable and attainable. That is, make sure that the objectives can be reached within the time you have for the lesson. In order to know if a lesson can be measured. Because of this, a lesson plan objective should describe behavior that can be observed. Good lesson plan objectives describe what students should be able to do after the lesson, not what they will know. So, for example, an objective of this current lesson is for readers to know the key elements of a good lesson plan. To word this in a way that can be observed and measured, we can say that after this lesson, participants will be able to describe the 6 key elements of a good lesson plan. Sequencing describes what will happen during the lesson, the order in which it happens, and how you will transition between activities and to the next lesson. Considerations for sequencing could include when is the best time to do a certain activity, and what is a logical but meaningful way to organize the lesson. The sequencing of a lesson should support the lesson's learning objectives. Many lessons follow this structure: warm-up, introduction to the class topic, presentation of material, one or more activities for students to practice, evaluation of the practice, and application to a relevant activity. We want learners to be able to apply their new knowledge and skills to authentic, real-world situations. One of the best ways to achieve this is by slowly removing the teacher as a director. Activities early in a lesson should include more direct guidance from the teacher. As the lesson progresses, learners should be given more independence. At the same time, we are moving students from more surface-level memorization and identification tasks to higher-level interactions with lesson material, such as applying, analyzing, and synthesizing. While it is important to be flexible when teaching, it is also important to estimate how long each part of the lesson will take. This will help organize activities and determine what is possible to do in a lesson. Never forget that learning takes time. Make sure to give your students plenty of time to process an activity or engage in new learning. You will have a variety of students in your classroom. How will you support students who need extra help and students who need to be challenged more? When writing your lesson plan, make sure to include details about student interaction. For example, will they be doing pair work, individual work, group work, or be listening to the teacher presenting information? Make sure that your lesson includes a balance of interaction during class, as this can help with differentiation and create a learning environment that is productive for multiple learning styles. Providing detailed notes in a lesson plan regarding what challenges students might have and how you might avoid or lessen the impact of these challenges can help a teacher adapt for differentiation. For assessment of student learning, how will you know what students have learned? How will you know if the learning objectives were met? Will you ask your students comprehension questions? Will there be a short presentation, drills, a short quiz, a written assignment, or a group activity where students must use new learning to complete the task? For assessment of the overall lesson, do you leave time at the end of the lesson to gather feedback? Is there a space for you to take notes on the lesson plan? After each class, try to find the time to reflect on the lesson and identify what worked and what did not. In order to implement a good lesson, you need to know what materials will be necessary. This can include books, pens, handouts, and so on. Making sure to obtain the necessary materials before class is important, as it saves time and helps teachers feel more prepared. Now that we have looked at the 6 essential elements of a good lesson plan, your next step is to take a comprehension quiz, which will not only help you review these concepts, but also think through why these 6 elements should be included in a lesson plan. Here are the references used for this presentation.
Okay. All right. So I really hope. I wish the video is shown on your screens, but I can share with you the link on the comments box. Maybe if you can do it, it's there in the first. Okay, I can do it.
You can send it to me, and then we will share it with the in the
I mean, can it be in this
chat box.
comment box now or chat? Okay, I'll send it to you
Yeah, chat.
so that you can see it. All right, here it is in the private chat. So you can share it in the comments. Okay, chat box. All right.
Done.
So there it is. There it is. All right. So here you have watched this video based on the key elements mentioned here of a good lesson plan. I'd like you to think of your experience as teachers to describe one of your best lessons, one of your most successful lessons. What makes them successful? Some features of a successful lesson. Okay? And then we're going to move on to the other one, a less successful lesson. Sometimes it doesn't work, everything doesn't work. Again, what makes that lesson less successful? So let's start first of all with a successful lesson, a very effective lesson, some features of a successful lesson. So you can jot down some ideas of features of a successful lesson based on your experience as teachers. And also based on what has been displayed on the video. So maybe if you'd like, you can rewatch the video, okay, your laptops or cell phones. So here one is first, objectives must be met. Okay, one of the features that you feel, feature of a successful lesson is that you feel that the objectives were met by the end. You achieved your objectives. Okay, it's not just about stating the objectives, planning the lesson plan, but you feel that your objectives have been reached. Okay, another one, a large number of participating students. You feel that students are more involved, are more engaged. Okay, the objectives were met, as another one said. Especially, of course, in the production stage. This is the stage where we were going to check if our objectives are met or not. As it is mentioned there in the video, that in the assessment stage, we assess students' learning, but also we assess our teaching. Okay, so it's both assessing learning and assessing teaching, and see if the students manage to achieve those objectives or not. Good interaction of students during the lesson. So varying interaction modes. It's not only teacher-student, but student-student interaction, using different interaction patterns, individual work, peer work, and group work. So it's not just teacher-student interaction, okay? But we make our classroom more interactive, vertically and horizontally, okay? Any more? So the more interactive the class is, the more successful. The more we feel that students manage to understand, to grasp, to apply what has been introduced to them, and also use that in their production stage. All right. Engages the majority of learners in the lesson. So the lesson is more engaging. The activities are more engaging. So they are not teacher-centered. They are more learner-centered. Students get engaged and motivated. They feel that motivated. Why? Because of this positive spirit on the part of the teacher, and on that positive atmosphere created by the teacher. engages the majority of learners in the lesson. So it's more about engagement, whole class coverage. So the more you cover the whole class, the more engaging your lesson is, your activities are, the more successful it becomes. Students to control over their learning. Yes, you allow students to be more independent. So making this shift from being dependent on the teacher to becoming autonomous and independent. The lesson is enjoyable, which means that there is a variety of activities, variety of methods, variety of contents. All right, fine, great. And at the same time, it's related, if you go back to that video, it's related to key elements of a good lesson. Yes, so here it's the teacher is just a guide. So this movement of the teacher from the sage on the stage into a guide on the side. So it's not, as we said before, it's not the only source of information. But of course, he can use a lot of sources and let students use different resources, of course, to get involved. Smooth, maybe there is smooth transition from one activity to another, from one stage into another. Success shows itself on the faces of students. Students feel motivated, feel satisfied. Yes? The lesson is well structured, is well organized, is much more coherent. Okay, as again it is mentioned in the video. So there is, as see Hmad, okay, said smooth transition from one stage to another. You have lower teacher talking time, higher student talking time. Learning time is different. They have different modes of interaction. Okay, I think that's it. Great, wonderful. Now, what about sometimes you feel that it's not your day? Okay, everything goes wrong, and you don't feel everything is okay from the beginning to the end, and you feel a bit frustrated. You go through some failures, or students could not interact. Maybe if you can share with us that moment where you feel that everything is not okay. It's not necessarily due to the teacher. It's not only about internal factors related to the teacher. There are other external factors related to the students, to the materials, to learning conditions, and so on. We don't say a bad lesson or an unsuccessful lesson, but a less successful, less effective lesson. What makes that lesson less successful? Right? Can you tell us? So here somebody said a negative lesson or a less successful lesson, so as not to feel disappointed, because we all go through this. This is part of our life. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Same thing for our career, our profession, as teachers, as supervisors, as everyone in life. So a negative lesson, there is no interaction. A lot of teacher talking. You feel that you talk. You ask the question, you answer. There is no interaction. And sometimes it's not easy to reflect, to come up with solutions on the spot immediately. Poor students interaction, okay. Somebody said good pace. Maybe pace, if you have it, yeah. The teaching pace and learning pace. In a successful lesson, you feel that the teaching pace and the learning pace are complementary, match one another. In a less successful lesson, you feel that maybe the teaching pace is higher and the learning pace is slower. Students are slow, and maybe you teach fast. Or sometimes you have a lot of high achievers, our teaching pace is very slow, and those high achievers want a fast pace, okay? All right. Yeah, when you feel that your students are bored, you feel that the lesson is monotonous, is boring, okay? Right? All right. There is no plan, some plan B, backup plan. Sometimes when something unexpected happens, okay, you plan to use digital tools, but unluckily the power is out. So you have no backup plan or something unexpected happen. So having a backup plan, contingency plan is something important. A top-down mode of delivery. Instead of making, yeah, thank you so much, CLBB. Instead of making it bottom-up teaching or learning, you make it top-down, which is more teacher-centered. All right. So Si Hassan says what TTT means teacher talking time. STT means student talking time. These are some two criteria we use to see or to check how interactive the lesson is. Okay. Jungle path, lack of plan B, right? Okay, fine. Thank you so much. So here, maybe you've mentioned it all. If you have more ideas, feel free to write them down in your comments. Students can't demonstrate general understanding of the lesson. If you want to check their understanding, they can't understand that lesson. Objectives are unattained. Thank you. Yeah, as a solution there, gamification can be used as a solution. Okay, we're going to see that. Okay, so I think you've seen it all. So here are some features I'm going to share with you, but I'm sure that what you have mentioned is also here. All right. So here, the features of a successful lesson. As well as I said, those features sometimes are related to the content, are related to methods and materials, timing, and so on. So here, the content for a feature of a successful lesson, the content is appealing to students' needs, is attractive. The content catches their attention as one of the first features. The lesson is highly interactive, as somebody said. You have more student talking time, all right? Students interact more and more. The third feature, the lesson sequences are logically coherent and tied up, means there is no disconnection. There is a smooth transition from one component to another, from one stage into another, and from one activity to another. We feel that there is logical coherence, logical movement from one sequence into another. The activities are engaging, okay? There is variety. To avoid this monotony boredom, there is variety of materials, of activities, and teaching techniques. And the sixth feature, the timing for each element is convenient. The timing allotted to each stage, usually presentation stage, practice stage, and production stage, is convenient, okay? And finally, you have using a range of assessment tools. Assessment tool to check if students have understood the lesson, to check if our objectives have been met or not, okay? I think these are some key features of a successful lesson. You may have others, but mostly this is what you also have mentioned. Now, the less successful lesson, all right, somebody said lack integrated skills, integrated learning, okay? All right. So the content doesn't suit student having this approach of TAL, teaching at the right level. Maybe here we don't teach at students' right level. Sometimes we feel that the content is beyond their level and doesn't meet their needs. It's too challenging for them. The teacher talking time is higher. The lesson components are disconnected. We feel there is an abrupt shift, transition from one stage into another, from one activity into another. There is no interconnection. Very few students take part. Only high achievers take part. The lesson is teacher-centered and monotonous, is not student-centered. Somebody talked about the pace. The teaching pace doesn't match learners' pace. And we know the importance of pace. Sometimes if we teach at a very fast pace, slow learners will have difficulties to follow, won't be able to follow. And at times, if we teach at very slow pace, it becomes monotonous. So we need to choose the right pace that best matches students' pace. The lesson objectives are not reached by the end. I think these are most common issues, and they are a bit related to the video we have mentioned. Yes, somebody talked about assessment tools, such as, yeah, we have different tools like, yeah, do you have some ideas by teachers, like exit tickets. Exit ticket is one of the assessment tools we use at the end to check if students have understood something, okay? Or 2 stars and 2 stars and 2 wish. 2 good elements that you've learned today that you liked about today's lesson, and 1 element that you wish can be developed, okay? All right. Need for motivation, joy to reduce language anxiety. Okay, thank you. Fine. I think that's it. All right. Okay, now let's move on to key principles of effective teaching and learning. So based on those features, on key elements of a good lesson, and drawing on classroom observations and interviews that I have through kind of 7 years experience as a supervisor. I have here dozens of key principles of effective teaching and learning. What are some principles that we need to take into account to make our teaching and learning more effective? The first one is student-centered learning. And we're going to explain that in the next activity. Okay, student-centered learning. So the more our approach is the more it is student-centered, the more interactive it is, the more effective it becomes. The more we focus on learning, not just teaching. Somebody said here, what about students? So that's the purpose here, is to focus also on students through making our teaching more learner-centered. You have adaptability, the ability to adapt, to readjust, to modify the content, materials, and methods, and techniques to suit students' level. Means we should not use materials and use them to the letter. We should try to adapt them. We shouldn't be controlled by those materials. There's always a room for creativity, room for modification, room for adaptation. You have ongoing assessment using different ways of assessment, okay? So-called alternative assessment. So each time we assess, in the middle of the lesson, we need to assess students' understanding, check students' understanding. At the end, we need to assess if students have learned something, have achieved those objectives or no. We have turned those objectives into learning outcomes. So ongoing assessment, differentiated instruction. So as we know that our classroom is full of different students with different levels and different needs. So we need to adapt this differentiated instruction using a variety of techniques, of materials, of activities to suit different students' needs. Inclusive practices, okay? As you have mentioned before, it's more related about classroom coverage. The more inclusive we are, we try to include as many students as possible. If we talk about inclusive practices, it's not necessarily about, students with disabilities, but it's also about students with difficulties. How we're going to include struggling students, students who can't get engaged. It's a challenge, but we try to use different inclusive methods, engaging activities to include different. So it's a matter of practice. Each time we acquire new practice, new inclusive practices. We should not exclude other students, okay, right, in our lesson. Feedback and reflection. Okay, we need feedback and reflection, be it student feedback or teacher feedback, peer feedback and constructive feedback, and reflection on teaching and learning. We need to reflect as teachers and also as students on our learning, and we're going to see how later on. Another principle is collaborative learning. or cooperative learning, the ability to let students learn from one another using a variety of interaction modes, group work and pair work, and also nourishing this collaboration spirit among students. It's not just about competition, okay, being competitive, but also being collaborative and cooperative. Maybe we are competitive when it comes to the quiz, to the test, or to the exam, but in the learning, okay, we need to turn it into hands-on activities, collaborative activities, in which students can help one another through the so-called peer learning or collaborative learning. Real-world application. If what we teach is not related to real life, students' immediate environment, it's not going to be meaningful to students. If students cannot apply what they learn in their real life or apply what they learn in their lives in the classroom, then it's not meaningful. And the last two key principles of effective teaching are more related to skills, other skills apart from language skills, critical thinking skills and problem-solving skills. These are part of life skills that students need to develop, okay, so as not to take everything for granted, and so as to develop some skill to help them solve real-life problems. And the last one is the emotional and social learning. So taking into account their emotional condition, their social condition, the ability to socialize in the classroom, the ability to develop emotional and social skills is also an important part, element that we need to take into account while we deliver lessons. Okay. All right, so we're going to explain. Maybe I've tried to define a little bit those principles. The next task for our followers is to match those principles. So you have from 1 to 10. Okay, don't know if it's visible to everybody. Hopefully, is it visible? Okay. So match those principles with those definitions, okay? You can just maybe write number and letter. So these are, of course, scattered, okay, scrambled. Student-centered learning, you read from A to J, you look at those words, highlighted words in bold. This can help a lot. And you try to match those principles with their definitions. Student-centered learning, okay? What does it mean? Try to choose from those definitions. Yes, so here, 1I, okay, let's see, I, ensures all students, regardless of background or ability, have access to learning opportunities. Maybe. 1F prioritizes, because here you have other principles, they are interrelated. So F prioritizes the interests and needs of students, making them active participants in their learning journey. So, okay, we need to see which one is correct. Is it I or F? Maybe we need to see other principles to decide. Okay, let's see adaptability. This adaptability skill that we need to develop, especially now that we have plenty of materials, plenty of resources. We need to adapt the textbook, adapt resources online to suit students' needs. Which one is the correct one for number 2? You can just write 2 and the letter. Somebody said E, so adaptability. So 2 to G. Okay, tailors learning experiences to accommodate the diverse abilities and learning styles within the classroom. Okay, we'll see that. Okay, 2H. All right, allow educators to modify. The keyword here is to modify, to readjust. Teaching approaches. It's not only about teaching approaches, teaching materials, teaching approaches and methods based on student feedback and changing educational landscapes. So I believe, yeah, it's the right one. 2H. That's it. That's confirmed by others. Okay. Now, ongoing assessments, which is the third principle, third tenet. So just take a look at those words involved, highlighted words. A, 3A, A, so you have two teachers. Yet I think that's right. Involves regular evaluation. So it's regular evaluation, checking students' progress, to inform teaching methods, to let us readjust our methods and provide support or remediation whenever needed. So the importance of this ongoing assessment, be it it's regular assessment, be it formative or summative or alternative assessment, is to readjust our teaching methods and to provide remediation, support, help to students wherever possible. Thank you. Now, 4, differentiated instruction or differentiation. Okay. Let's look at again those definitions and those bold words. Okay, somebody said G. 4G, okay, fine. Tailors learning experiences to accommodate, to meet the diverse. You have diversity. Differentiation means diverse abilities and learning styles. Okay, students with a variety of abilities and learning styles within the classroom. So we need to modify our experiences, teaching and learning experiences to accommodate the diverse abilities and learning style within the classroom. Fine. 5, inclusive practices, or inclusive education. Being inclusive, involve all the students. Okay. Any definition? Somebody said I. Okay. 5I. We have 2 teachers. Okay, maybe. Let's see. Ensures all students, regardless of background or ability, have access. That's right. Have access to learning opportunities. So regardless of their background or abilities, it's a mixed ability class. They have equal access to learning opportunities. So it's a challenge for us to design some practical activities and methods and strategies that can help us involve all the students. Fine. Next one, 6, feedback and reflection. When you talk about feedback, we get feedback from students, but let students provide feedback to one another. And reflection, it's not just about reflective teaching, it's also about reflective learning. We need to reflect as teachers on our teaching practices, and also let students reflect on their learning. So you have somebody said B, 6B. Let's check that. Empower students to reflect on. So you have reflection. Reflect on their learning and benefit from constructive feedback. Constructive feedback provided not only by the teacher, but by students themselves, the so-called peer feedback. Okay? So the more we involve students in all these principles, okay, the more effective it is. And our role there is to guide them and provide support whenever it's needed. 7, collaborative learning or cooperative learning as another principle. Okay, so 6B. Now what about 7? Collaborative learning. Seven, D, okay. All right, D, let's check. Encourages group work, peer work and group work and discussion, enhancing learning through shared ideas, enabling students to share ideas together. So learning through sharing, that's right. So it's usually through a technique called think, pair, share. Think, pair, share. You need to involve students to think individually, pair with their partner, and share together. 8, real-world application or real-life learning. Number 8. 8E. Let's see others. Check. E, all right. Connects classroom learning to real-life context. If we don't build on students' prior knowledge, on students' immediate environment, on real-life context, if we don't make our teaching and students' learning meaningful, contextualized, it won't be meaningful to them. It won't be relevant. So it enhances relevance and engagement. The more we engage students, if we make our lessons more real life, more meaningful, more authentic, more contextualized and meaningful. 9, critical thinking and problem solving. Okay, as a skill, as okay, cognitive skill. So 9. J, right? Cultivate skills. This is it's more related to life skills. Cultivate skills necessary for students to analyze information and tackle complex problems, real life problems. Okay, that's fine. And finally, emotional and social learning. I think. Yes. So that's the word. It's not the, yeah, emotional and social learning. Okay, what does that mean? As last but not least principle. C. Integrate, that's right. Integrating emotional and social development, because it's not only, we don't just teach language. Language is there as a means, okay, not as an end. So if we don't take into account their emotional and social aspect, emotional and social development, so integrating emotional and social development into academic learning. So we should not focus just on academic learning, on study skills or language skills, but also on life skills or on soft skills. So here, integrating emotional and social development into academic learning, supporting holistic growth, means that mindset growth, holistic growth that takes into account mental, cognitive, emotional, social skills, and in addition to communicative skills. I think that's it. Fine. Yeah, to raise their emotional and social intelligence. So as we say, we need to take into account this multiple intelligences into consideration while we address students. So the more we take into account those principles, the more learner-centered our lesson is, the more communicative, because that's the purpose, is to teach English for communication. Okay, be it grammar or vocab. If it's not communicative, if it's not contextual, meaningful, okay, if it's just the purpose is to study it, not to learn it, we can study it for the for exercises, for the quiz and the exam, but it's not enough. Our purpose is, as we said before, is to teach lifelong lessons, lessons that have great impact on students. So the more relevant it is to their social life, the more impactful it becomes. So let's check. So these are the answers. I think you've answered them all. So student-centered learning prioritizes the interests and needs of students, making them active participants. The purpose here is to make those students active, the center of attention, active participants in their learning journey. Now for the adaptability allows, maybe, here they are interrelated, adaptability and student-centered learning, because if we want to make our teaching more student-centered, we need to adapt materials and so on. Adaptability allows educators to modify teaching approaches, methods, content based on student feedback, on diagnosis, and changing educational landscapes. Apart from these two, all the others are correct. I think fine. All right, so taking into account those principles can make our lessons more effective. Now, related to those principles, now the challenge is how to put into practice those principles is through adopting a variety of strategies. When we talk about strategies, there are teaching strategies, but there are also learning strategies. Now, I'd like you to take a look at these effective teaching strategies in this poster and tell me which ones are familiar with, which ones do you use most in your classrooms, and which ones are new for you. You have scaffolding. Some have already been mentioned before. Differentiation, chunking, guided practice, agenda setting, direct instruction, spaced repetition, peer assistance, flipped instruction, coaching, modeling, hypothesizing. I'd like you to pick up the ones you use most and the ones you think are most effective for your students. And the more we vary those strategies, the more engaging our lessons are. Sure, somebody talks about motivation. That's the purpose of using different variety of strategies, is to motivate students to get engaged. So, scaffolding, okay, fine, scaffolding, somebody said. So scaffolding is helping, providing this individual help, helping students to get engaged. Okay, somebody said 11, differentiation, 34. Okay, direct instruction, make sure that you have two kinds of instructions, or direct instruction or direct pedagogy or direct teaching, and implicit instruction. So a combination of the two. Sometimes we need to use direct instruction, especially when it comes to explaining some rules and so on. But sometimes we make it implicit and give a chance to students to explore the rule or the focus of the lesson. Modeling, right? Providing the model at the beginning of the lesson, at the presentation stage, can help students, at least those struggling students, lower achievers, follow that model at the end. For example, it's a writing lesson. If you don't provide a model, you start with integrating reading, for example, writing with reading. Okay, if you don't provide that model of an email or an article and so on, and let students follow that model, by the end, it will be difficult for low achievers to write. Same thing for speaking and so on. Peer assistance, involving students, peer support, or peer learning involving students to help one another, especially high achievers helping low achievers. Guided practice. Okay, wonderful. Okay, sometimes we need to guide students to practice. So as to practice the rule, to practice the target item. Okay, so because they struggle there, they are still there to make hypotheses, test their hypothesis, they can make mistakes and so on. So providing guided practice and sometimes individual assistance and peer assistance can help. Chunking, that's right, chunking. What does chunking mean? Yes, is the so-called sentence frames, choosing short phrases, meaningful phrases to help students remember them, okay, not in isolation, but they are meaningful and contextualized, short sentences, short questions and answers to help students use that language meaningfully, question and answer, all right? What about any new teaching strategy here for you? Or anyone that you haven't tried yet? Yeah, drilling and repetition. So here it's spaced repetition. Recycling or spaced repetition means at the end, for example, of each unit, you can have a recycling, or each 2 units, you have a recycling of what they have already studied. Spaced means there should be logical space between the first exposure to the new item and the recycling of that item later on. Spaced repetition or drilling. That's right. Yes, anyone? Are you familiar with agenda setting? Maybe coaching is there, teacher as a coach, or you can use students as a coach, as a tutoring. Agenda setting, in your opinion, what is agenda setting? Yes? Here's about agenda setting. Let's try here hypothesizing. Okay, let's okay, get some answers, okay, from you, just guessing. So hypothesizing should be is proven to be a very effective teaching strategy. Let students hypothesize, guess, make a hypothesis. They may be right, they may be wrong, they may can make a mistake, it's okay, and give them a chance to test those hypotheses. Agenda planning means planning. So agenda is usually the content of the lesson, the key elements of the lesson. Setting that either together with students, we set what you have in the menu, today's menu, or what you're going to have. You involve them in setting the content they are going to teach, to learn, the activities, them in setting the agenda, in choosing some activities. In case they feel bored, you give them, you can give them a chance to listen to their voice, listen to their choices of what type of activities they like to be involved, how they like to be taught grammar, for example. Is it through the monotonous way or through games and so on? So involving them in making choices, in making decisions can help also avoid that boredom, that monotony. So which is a technique here. I hope it's clear. Setting the agenda, setting the items that can be included in each lesson, related to the content, related to the method, and to the activities. Or goals, yes, with students. All right, I think these are clear, those teaching strategies. We're going to have more. This is another one, okay? Other teaching strategies, some of them have already been mentioned there in the first poster. Now, the second one, we have some new teaching strategies here. Again, same thing. Which ones have you already experimented, and which ones are new for you? Let's have a look together. visual aids, or visualizing, okay? Use of visuals, okay? All right, it's the most common one. Visual comprehension, especially good for visual learners, but also for other learners. As you know that this generation is becoming more and more visual, all right? This is the most common one, visualizing or using different visual aids, visual tools, yes. Brainstorming is the most common one, which is used to generate ideas, like what we have tried at the beginning of this presentation. Brainstorming, okay, enabling students to generate some ideas, okay. Inquiry-based learning like projects. Reflection, reflective learning. So it's not only, as I said, reflective teaching, it's reflective learning through critical thinking, to self-analysis, self-reflection, okay? All right. One of the best techniques, now for each strategy you have a technique. One of the best techniques to enable students to reflect is to have this idea of 2 styles and 2 wish. 2 things that you like about the lesson, 1 thing that you wish you learn more, or keeping a journal, right? Peer assessments, yeah, we did it before. Peer learning or peer assessment, peer tutoring and peer assessment, all right, or peer learning, okay. In a new strategy here, teaching strategy that you may want to know, exit tickets. Exit ticket is one of assessment tool, assessment and reflection tool, okay, to assess if they have learned something, get something, some takeaways from the lesson. In a new strategy, teaching strategy you haven't applied or you'd like to explore more. Yeah, flip models or flip learning. What does that mean? I think it's mentioned here. It's mentioned in the, yes, here. Yeah, flipped instruction or flipped learning, which means, yes, all right. Any idea about flipped learning as opposed to conventional learning? Yes. Yes, flipped instruction is assigning what students should normally study in the classroom, assign it at home, let students do it at home, and then use that, have enough time in the classroom for profound study, profound understanding of that content, which means that letting students become independent learners. Let them learn, study, explore what they're going to see before coming to the classroom, and then you're going to have plenty of time, plenty of opportunities to study profoundly the material. Interdisciplinary approach. So as I said before, okay, our aim is not just to teach language, but to use language as a tool, okay, to take into account or to incorporate other disciplines, other areas. If we teach science students or other kinds of students, we need also to incorporate topics related to science, to technology, and so on. Same thing for humanities. Make use of what they study in history and geography. So as I said, it should be interdisciplinary. We should use different disciplines, which means that the teacher should be versatile, should be knowledgeable about different disciplines, not only studying the language. Language is just a tool, not an end, but use it as a tool to explore different disciplines, and also through skills integration, which is part of holistic education. The so-called English for specific purposes, exactly, to help meet students' needs. So you should know the type of students you have, their interests, their choice, and so on, their area of study, and you try to incorporate that in your lesson. Okay, I think that's it. Now we have storyboarding. Storyboarding, which is something that most students like. What does that mean, storyboarding? So somebody said flipped learning, doing tasks online, or sometimes at home or online, and discussing them in class. Yeah, fine, thank you. So storyboarding. So where do we usually have storyboards? Idea. So where do you usually have storyboards? Storyboards in cinema, especially in cinema, you have different scenes of the movie turned into into stories, illustrations, okay, and of course the actors need to visualize, understand the situation so that they can act out. Same thing for students. Instead of providing a written story, script story, we provide illustrations through pictures, the so-called photo story, like photo story, for example, with the beginning and the middle and the end. Then they can turn it into scripts, okay? Or the other way around, especially when it comes to middle school students. We have their extensive reading stories. They can turn these stories into storyboards. Means you have scene number one, the introduction. They need to draw a kind of storyboard, a kind of illustration, pictures, scenes that describe the story. Same thing for the middle and the end. So I think it's very beneficial. It's very motivating to students. I think that's it. Yeah, it's like their reading, means extensive reading, stories. Okay, so if you feel that those stories are too long for students, monotonous, turn them or help students turn those stories into storyboards, into photo, pictures, illustrations. All right, or provide sometimes a story through pictures, and they need to tell the story, storytelling, either orally or in written form, by describing those pictures. I think these are some key teaching strategies that can be employed to involve students. And the more varied they are, the more we involve students. And I think this variety of strategies can involve students with different learning styles, visual learners or auditory learners or tactile kinesthetic learners. Yeah, storyboarding can be used for storytelling to enable students to tell the story. Right? I'm trying to interact with some of your comments, okay? And we're going to have a chance to discuss later on once we finish. Now, let's move on to students. Somebody talked about what about students? Now, the teacher designs some or adopt some teaching strategies to help different students with different styles get involved, but students also use different language learning strategies. And this is taken from Oxford 1990 classification of language learning strategies. As you notice here, you have two types of language strategies or learning strategies: direct strategies and indirect strategies. These are used by students, okay? For direct strategies, you have memory strategies. We're going to explain that later on. Memory strategies that target the memory. And these can be used to store and retrieve information, store information in the short-term memory and long-term memory, and retrieve information from the memory. You have cognitive strategies. Some mental strategies are used by students to understand some processes, mental processes used by students to help understand different items. And compensation strategies. Compensation. In case they have difficulties or they have some gaps they use some compensation strategies to make up for their weaknesses. And we're going to see some examples later on. So these are indirect strategies, memory strategies, cognitive strategies, and compensation strategies. Now for indirect strategies, and the more we know this, part of our diagnosis, the more we understand students, the more we involve them, the more we use different teaching strategies that match those strategies. Indirect strategies, you have metacognitive strategies. So you have cognitive, but metacognitive. That's why it's called indirect. And you have affective strategies. We talked about affective learning before to help students learn, develop this affective aspect they use, or we need to help them develop those affective strategies related to their emotional aspect, emotional learning. And social strategies to help students socialize, interact with one another in the classroom and beyond. I think it's clear. We're going to see the use or definition of each strategy, if you don't mind. And one of the challenges, one of the tasks that we're going to do is what strategies the teacher should use, the strategies we have seen before, that can match or complement students' learning strategies, which means that here teaching and learning should be complementary. Teaching strategy and learning strategies have to complement one another to make our lessons a successful ones. So let's first explain those strategies by giving some examples, and then see which teaching strategies target those learning strategies. Okay, let's start with cognitive strategies. You have here the ability for students to enable students to analyze, synthesize, and make connections. That's cognitive strategies. Memory strategies are more about storing information in the short-term memory and long-term memory, and retrieve information from the memory by using visuals and making associations. The other word used is mnemonic strategies. Strategies used by students so as not to forget, to try to remember, store information, understand, and use and reuse information. And the best technique used here is the use of visuals and making associations. Metacognitive strategies. These are, we started with indirect strategies here. To plan, the ability to plan, monitor, organize, and evaluate new information. To plan learning, to organize it, to monitor it, and evaluate new information by students. These are indirect strategies. Now, these are direct strategies. Now, let's move on to others. Compensation strategies. You have the ability to guess from context, to find out missing information. So in case they don't know the answer, they don't know what to do, they use those compensation strategies, maybe to guess. Guessing is one of the techniques that can be used. Guessing from context. Affective strategies is to lower anxiety, the ability to take control of their emotions by lowering their anxiety. And here, the role of the teacher to motivate those students. Motivate the self. So it's inner, inner motivation. Control their emotions. Control, for example, stress, pressure, anger, and so on. All right? And social strategies, the ability to socialize with others, with students and with teachers and so on, to ask questions, to ask for help in case they need help, to collaborate and learn from one another, and to empathize with one another. I think it's clear. These are some definitions, some ways to enable students to use those strategies. And again, this is classification of those language learning strategies by Oxford 1990. And there is going to be a list of references by the end if you'd like to have more insights about it. Okay. My question is, how or what are some of the teaching strategies that the teacher should use to enable students to develop those language learning strategies? We're going to see, for example, social strategy, which I'm going to go back to those teaching strategies. Which teaching strategy complements or develops social strategy on the part of learners? Which one here? We want students to socialize, to interact. And which strategy are we going to use? Can you write that in the comment box? Either this one or the other one, the second poster. Peer assessment, peer assistance. So that's it. The ability to socialize with their peers, with their partners. So one of the teaching strategies that target students' social strategy is peer assistance. The other one, you can have one or more. Scaffolding, yeah, the ability to provide support either by the teacher or by students. Okay. Yes, we can scaffold them. Modeling. All right. Now let's see another modeling. Okay, we're going to see how. All right. So let's see another strategy. Cognitive strategy. Cognitive strategy, it's a learning strategy. Which teaching strategy can best empower students' cognitive strategy? Yes, in ideas, cognitive strategy, the ability to use some mental process to understand or to come up with idea. Brainstorming, that's right. Brainstorming and hypothesizing is wonderful, is a cognitive strategy. Better matches students' cognitive strategy. All right. Maybe we can pick up others. Okay. Affective strategy. Is there any one used here? So for the affective strategy, is there any all right, teaching strategy that better suits this one? All right. Somebody said differentiation. That's right. Differentiation means the ability to meet different students' needs, including affective needs. That's right. And the ability, coaching helps students to get motivated. If you provide them with coaching support, all right, some instructions, this can help them a lot overcome learning difficulties. All right. If you'd like to have more to pick any other strategy here, language learning strategy, and how as teachers, how we're going to apply teaching strategies to develop, to activate and develop language learning strategies, you can write them there. Compensation strategy. Let's do it. Compensation strategy. We say that compensation strategy is a strategy used when students feel that they can't do something, they need to think of alternative ways. How are we going to, as teachers, develop this strategy among students? Yeah, of course, it depends on classroom situations. So as we said, compensation strategy, you have to guess from context, to find out missing information. It's just one way to use compensation strategy, which teaching strategy, of course, complements this. Drilling can help students, especially the ones who have difficulties in pronunciation and so on. Okay, fine. Guided practice, we need to guide them. Modeling, that's right, modeling, providing students with a model. So students, sometimes they feel difficult to write. If we don't provide them with a model at the beginning to follow, if we provide them with a model, then here we help them develop this compensation strategy, make up for their weakness. Modeling, that's a good example, good strategy. Or in speaking, sometimes it's difficult for them to deliver a short talk. If you or short dialogue, if you provide them with a model, maybe digital one, okay, see it, study it, at least they have something to follow. And later on, we can help them create more models. Giving queuing, that's a technique, queuing, prompting and queuing. So for each strategy, we have some techniques. Queuing is one of the techniques that can be used for prompting. Okay, interdisciplinary approach, especially for students who are not good at English, but they are good at science, at geography, or if we use that, or at sports. And so if we use that discipline to involve them, this can engage them a lot. That's right. So I think the idea is clear. So the more, say, teaching and learning complement one another, the more we help achieve learning objectives. That's the idea. Is that teaching strategy and learning strategies should match one another, should complement one another. That's why we need to use a variety of teaching strategies to meet students' different learning strategies. I hope it's clear. If you have any questions, feel free to ask by the end. Okay. All right. Memory strategies. For memory strategy, you have the use of visual aids. Visual aids can help students remember or store information in their minds. Okay, I think that's it. I think we've gone through all those stages, or those strategies. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. For further information, for further insights, please, you can just go to Oxford 1990 classification of language learning strategy to read more about them, okay? And how to implement them in the classroom, which is more important. Our purpose is how to practically implement those strategies to make our teaching and learning more effective. Great. Now, taking into account principles we have mentioned and teaching strategies and learning strategies, we're going to come up with a very practical slide here, which is about criteria of an effective lesson. So here I'm going to provide you with a list of criteria, checklists of an effective lesson that takes into account those principles and teaching strategies and learning strategies and other techniques. Let's take a look at this, this criteria. From stating the object, so it's criteria of an effective lesson plan and an effective lesson. From stating the objectives into, learning outcomes, assessing the outcomes. I hope it's here. Yes, it's somewhere there. I hope it's visible to everybody. You go through, my question is, you go through these criteria, all right? Maybe you can screen them, all right? And if you have any comment on it, on them, feel free to write them. So here, first of all, the objectives. The objectives of the lesson should be clear, are attainable, are smart, we said before, specific, measurable, attainable, and timely and realistic, okay? The teacher, and you have here, the second criteria is about qualities of the teacher. The teacher is mobile, confident, enthusiastic, and supportive. The teacher uses visual aids and realia. The teacher doesn't rely exclusively on the material in the textbook. All the instructions are clear. The next criterion, the ratio of the teacher to student talk is acceptable. Means there is a balance between teacher talking time and student talking time. There are instances of closed and open peer work and group work, which means that there is a variety of interaction patterns. The teacher resorts to peer learning and peer correction to deal with students' errors. There is a variety of activities. The timing of the activity is appropriate. The teacher sets up activities that promote communication and interaction. Now, the second side here is about all students are involved at some point in the lesson. The teacher adopts a range of roles: organizer, facilitator, monitor, a guide, and so on. The teacher is concerned with both accuracy and fluency in order to help students develop this communicative competence, use or understand grammar and use it communicatively, sentence for vocab, integrate skills, and develop this communicative competence. There should be a balance between accuracy and fluency. It should not just focus on accuracy more or fluency more. It should be balanced, accuracy and fluency. So here we need to think about designing accuracy-oriented activities, but also fluency-oriented activities. The students have enough opportunities to practice the language. The next one, the teacher checks students' understanding. It's to assess students' understanding by designing different tasks. And you have, in that video we shared before, and we have shared the link, you're going to see that, some of the ways to help students check, the teacher checks students' understanding. There is a smooth transition from one step and an activity to another. The teacher makes provision of lesson opening and closing. The class is generally learner-centered. The students appear to enjoy the lesson. So there is a positive learning atmosphere. There is some gamification there. The teacher displays ability to deal with unexpected events. Somebody talked about backup plan. Should always be ready to face any unexpected events and have a backup plan, contingency plan with us. And finally, maybe it's not visible there, a range of assessment tools are employed, especially by the end, to check if students have achieved the objectives or not. As I said before, those tools include exit tickets or 2 stars and the wish technique. These are the most common ones, all right? Okay, so I believe that these are the most effective criteria of course that we need to take into account while we plan our lesson and while we deliver lessons. Okay, I believe that's it. Okay, so do you have any comments or any additions? Yeah, so having these criteria ensures successful lesson for sure. They cover different aspects. Yes, thank you. 2 stars and the wish is one of the assessment tool that you can use. That's right. Okay. Maybe for you, I think time maybe is a bit over. Maybe something to think of is based on what we have studied, on core principles of effective teaching and learning, and of a bunch of teaching strategies and learning strategies, and also the checklist that we have just explained. Okay, criteria of an effective lesson plan. You can think of designing a short lesson plan for your next sessions on teaching either skills or grammar and vocabulary and functions. So maybe take into account those principles, those different strategies, be they teaching strategies or learning strategies. You can think of designing short listed plans on teaching different aspects of language. And this can be done, okay, for your next sessions. Maybe due to time constraints, we cannot do this unless you share some key points, key stages that you need to okay, include in your lesson plan. Okay, whether you follow different models, whether you follow PPP, presentation, practice, production, or OHE, observation, hypothesizing, and experimenting, or a CRIF model, encounter, clarify, and so on. I think you are familiar with these models. Whatever you follow, make sure that when you design your lesson plan or when you teach, make sure you go through 3 phases. The input phase, okay, the phase in which students identify, recognize, you set the scene to help them identify, recognize the new item. The input phase, the implementation phase or application phase, in which students practice, implement what they have explored in the input phase or presentation stage. And the last one is the output phase, is how to use what the input that they have received in the input phase and what they have applied in the implementation phase, how to use that in new, how to use it communicatively, meaningfully in new contexts. So these are the key phases that you need to take into account while designing a lesson plan and while you deliver your lesson. I think that's it. Now, as a wrap up and as an assessment tool, you have takeaways. Okay, can you? I'd like you to write down or jot down 2 efficient or effective principles or strategies or criteria you are going to apply in your classroom. You are going to apply while you plan your lessons or while you deliver your lessons. So pick up. You can just write them in this comment box. 2 efficient principles or strategies, be they teaching strategies or learning strategies or criteria that we have just shared, criteria of an effective lesson plan. So you're going to apply in your classroom. Feel free to choose, just jot down, write down 2, pick up 2 most effective ones, most effective principles, strategies, or criteria. Okay, so I'm still waiting for you to write down. Maybe if you'd like me to go back to those principles or strategies or criteria, you can go back and pick up for you the most efficient principles or strategies, teaching strategies or learning strategies, or criteria. You're going, if you think that you're going to apply it in your classroom. Scaffolding, fine. Or something new today, some new principle or strategy or criteria. Maybe you've never tried before, you're going to give it a try. So if we don't have this idea, this approach of trial and error strategy, we will never develop. We should have this principle, and we also enable students to develop this trial and error strategy, okay, to learn from mistakes, to take the initiative, to take the risk and learn. Okay, somebody said metacognitive strategies in the form of a checklist. Okay, fine. Modeling, somebody said modeling. Storyboarding, fine. Any more? Personalization. Okay, would you explain more? Means making it meaningful, maybe, making it relevant to students' needs and so on. Storyboarding. Metacognitive strategies, affective strategies, and social strategies. That's right, because we also need to incorporate those indirect strategies, because learning is not just about studies, not just about knowledge. It's also about skills. It's also about social and affective learning. Okay, differentiating. That's right. Personalized learning, or means student-centered. Yes. So we make it more personal, more meaningful to students. So let's go back. You have criteria. Some aspects you need to take into account. Maybe you need to apply while you design an effective lesson plan or deliver a lesson. You have here the lists. From stating the objectives into assessing the learning outcomes, agenda setting, okay? And you have here those language learning strategies, cognitive, metacognitive, memory strategies, compensation strategies, affective strategies, and social strategies. Balance between accuracy and fluency. It's very important. If we don't balance them, we won't develop this communicative competence among learners. Okay, so let's take a look at those strategies. Exit ticket technique for assessment strategy. Okay, all right, so technique, very useful technique to check if students have achieved, have learned something, have taken away something. Exit ticket. Okay, and we have here this one, scaffolding, storyboarding, and so on. So at the same time, this is a wrap-up. Maybe is it time to say, Hmad, at the same time, this is a wrap-up done in a different way. Maybe you can do it with your students, a wrap-up that done in a training-centered way, learner-centered way in your classroom. Storytelling or storyboarding, that's fine. I think that's it. Okay. And you have here also some principles, those principles, all right? Collaborative learning, real-world application, and so on. Fine, I think that's it. I'd like to thank you so much for your, these are a list of references, okay? If you'd like to get more insights on effective teaching and learning, on teaching strategies, and so on, and learning strategies. You have the last one is by Oxford. You have it there. What every teacher should know. Very important one, very important one. It's much more a learner-centered learning strategies. Adaptability, somebody say chunking. Okay, fine, wonderful. 2 stars and the wish as an assessment technique, okay. 2 stars means 2 positive, 2 things that I learned, 2 things that I liked in the lesson, 2 things that I learned. A wish is something I wish I couldn't learn it, I couldn't understand it, but I wish I can learn it in the future. Okay. These are a list of references, and thank you so much for your interaction. Very wonderful, in fact, very wonderful ideas that I got from you. Thank you so much for your interaction, and if you still have more questions to answer, feel free to write them. The floor is yours, Mr. Ahmed.
Okay.
please,
Okay.
Abidi.
Okay, thank you so much, dear Supervisor Si Mohamed Abouabdellah, for your rational, insightful, and interactive lecture. I think that all the attendees have been enjoying the lecture, and it's really a successful lecture because there were a lot of engagements, a lot of questions, and this lecture provided a comprehensive and structured exploration of the core principles of effective English language teaching and learning, and by clearly defining key concepts and outlining the qualities of an effective teacher. The presentation established a strong foundation for understanding what makes language instruction successful. The discussion lecture, or during the presentation, there was a discussion of lesson planning, teaching strategies, and students' autonomy was particularly insightful, aligning with modern pedagogies or pedagogical approaches and teaching methods that prioritize engagement, adaptability, and measurable outcomes. The breakdown of successful lesson features and assessment criteria offered practical takeaways for educators and teachers, while the emphasis on teachers' development reinforced the importance of continuous professional growth. Overall, this lecture effectively bridged theory and practice. So within this lecture, we have been introduced to several ideas that are originated from theory, and we have seen several practical aspects of these ideas, making this a resource for both new teachers and also experienced teachers. We all can find several beneficial ideas within this lecture. Now let's move to the discussion. Mr. Abdel Fattah Abidi, would you like to interact with us, or have you any question?
Hello?
Welcome.
Hello?
We hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Si Ahmed. I would like first to extend my sincere gratitude to our guest speaker, Si Mohamed Abouabdellah, for his insightful, informative, and engaging presentation. I would like to highlight the significant or important points in the presentation. Si Abouabdellah has started with first an interesting icebreaker activity about the acronym success. This icebreaker was really interesting and introduced teachers to some important aspects that they should consider either in their lesson planning or in their teaching practices. He also provided a very informative and clear definition about effective teaching and learning. He considered or he considers effective teaching and learning as a process that involves designing learning or learner-centered experiences that encourage meaningful engagement, foster deep understanding, and support students in achieving personal and academic growth. He also mentioned some important characteristics of a good and effective teacher. Such characteristics include clear vision, an ability to cater for students' needs and learning styles, and mastering the subject matter. Our guest speaker also talked about some important features of a good. He said that a good lesson plan should be first appealing and relevant to the content. It should be also interactive and includes a variety of material and media. He also talked about some important core principles of effective teaching and learning. Mr. Abdullah emphasized the following foundational principles, such as student-centered learning, ongoing assessment for improvement, and differentiated instruction to meet diverse students. He also talks about some effective teaching strategies such as scaffolding, differentiation, chunking, guided practice, coaching, and modeling. In addition to other learning strategies such as setting goals and planning, active participation and engagement, in addition to taking notes and reviewing regularly, etc. Now, I have just one question, which is about how to apply teacher-centered philosophy in the Moroccan context. Especially, we often work in overcrowded classes, so sometimes we find it difficult to implement games and give students the chance to participate. I would like to have your ideas on this issue. And thank you so much for your insightful presentation again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Si Giftah Abidi, for this summary of this lecture. Maybe some teachers have asked some questions here, and I managed to answer them, some of them while presenting this lecture. I'd just like to, related to your question about how to apply teacher-centered instruction in our context. When I ask teachers this question, we have the use of a variety of course, our challenge is always large classes. Not just large classes, the type of students we have. We have sometimes low-level students, outnumber high achievers, okay? And our challenge is how to involve those low achievers, okay? So that's why I ask teachers to see how to apply teaching strategies, a variety of, because if we use just brainstorming, or we said, I asked students which ones are common. Maybe brainstorming is common. If we use brainstorming all the time, we're going to, so it's not just a matter of group work and pair work. It's a matter of the type of strategies we use to involve students, be they teaching strategies or enabling students to activate their learning strategies. If I ask the teacher which ones are common for you, which ones do you use most often? Maybe somebody said brainstorming. If we use brainstorming all the time, we're going to involve just some students, a few students. But if we use other strategies, each time we use a variety of strategies, okay, depending on the type of students we have, okay, and on their learning styles. For example, using visual aids most often, using storyboarding. I ask them which ones are new for you, because I want them to apply those new strategies for them. Okay, storyboarding is not that common, especially when it comes to a lot of teachers complain now, especially in middle school and maybe in the high school. We're going to have a change in the curriculum in 2 years' time. Okay, we have stories, we have short stories, illustrated stories for 7th graders, 8th graders, and next year 9th graders. But we're going to have that in the high school. If we don't use illustrations, if we don't use pictures, if we don't use storyboarding, it will be very difficult for students to read and understand. It's true that in that new textbook, Spotlight 1 and 2, we have some pictures, but sometimes these pictures are not enough. If we manage, maybe the teacher can make an effort to design a kind of storyboard, story scenes, pictures, illustrations, and let students match maybe what is in the text, what is in the story with those pictures can help, or use what is in pictures to help students describe events, main events in the story. This can involve other students. So here, the learner-centeredness depends on the variety. It's not just the variety of materials. I said the variety of strategies that we use, and it should not just be teaching strategies, also enabling students to activate those their learning strategies. That's why I said I asked against teachers which teaching strategies can best help students develop their learning strategies, be they cognitive strategies or social strategies and so on. And their answers are very interesting. They manage to find for each learning strategy, you have a matching a teaching strategy that the teacher should use to help students develop their strategy. Because if they develop their strategies, the purpose here is to help students become autonomous, to engage almost, to be inclusive, to engage almost all students, and to help them become independent, to help them become autonomous and become lifelong learners, which is our role. Okay, if we enable students to use English for lifelong learning, that's the most remarkable, the most outstanding objective we can achieve. Okay,
thank you.
If we manage to help students learn English and use English beyond the textbook, beyond the exam, beyond the quizzes, tests, and the exam, use it for their lives, especially now in the digital world, and also in their future career at the university now, whether they are science students or other kinds of students, they are going to need English, all right? And they're going to need in their future, in their career. So that's ultimate aim.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Sir Mohamed Abouabdellah, for this clarification and explanation of, and for answering this question that was provided by Mr. Abdel Abidi. In your experience, which of the core principles of effective English language teaching do teachers most often ignore? You have been introducing several principles based on your experience. Which one teachers mostly ignore?
Okay, it's not a matter of ignorance. It's just a matter of having. It's a bit challenging one. The most challenging one is how to be inclusive, how to engage all students, how to develop inclusive practices, how to help students, how to engage all the students in all the stages of the lesson. That's the most challenging, bit challenging. But believe me that teachers, a lot of teachers manage to develop, make use of different techniques each time they think of different techniques and strategies to help engage all students. This is the most challenging one, is how to be inclusive, how to be engaging, how to cover the whole class, how to enable students, how to enable all the students to give a chance, equal chances to all students, whether they are low achievers or high achievers, again, because high achievers sometimes get bored if they think that it's too easy. How to include everyone, a mixed level class, a mixed ability class, that's the biggest challenge. But that's why I focus on this, on those strategies. I focus on these principles. I focus on those strategies because I know that these are the best ways to engage all the students in different lesson, different stages of the lesson.
Thank you again. From your 16 years of teaching experience, what would you say are the three qualities that make an English teacher truly effective?
Okay. All right. So the first thing, the first quality is loving the job. Well, maybe it's implicitly mentioned here in this presentation, catering for students' needs and valuing them, loving the job first of all, because if you love the job, you will be ready to face any challenge that we have, to be it teaching challenges or students' challenges. I think this is the first thing, is loving the job. Second thing is catering for students' needs and valuing students. I think to value your students, to let them estimate or raise their self-esteem is one of the quality that helps teacher develop this kind of educational respectful relationship with students. If you value them, though they are not good at English, though they face lots of difficulties, but you motivate them, you value their potentials, their intelligences, they will take the risk, they will get involved, they will try to overcome, they will struggle a lot, they will try to overcome a lot of challenges. Maybe another quality is teaching lifelong lessons. That's what we need. Our focus is lifelong learning. It's not just, I know the obsession of students, especially high school students, is to take the exam, the national exam. But yes, you can take the exam, but what did you learn after the exam? Okay, so teaching lifelong lessons, lessons that students will always remember, lessons that students will need in their lives is really the quality that some teachers manage to do, all right? Having an impact, having this sense of leadership, having this sense of being an educator, not just a teacher. We educate students on values, on citizenship, on leadership, on how to make an impact on their lives, on their environment, on their community. That's the most important thing. Of course, you have the challenge, study skills, study for the exam is important, but the most important thing is to at least to consider assessment or testing, the quiz, and the exam as a learning opportunity, not just to take it, get in the grade, maybe pass the exam, and you forget everything. Okay, I think these are the most important qualities that I feel that every teacher should aspire to develop. That's
okay,
it.
thank you again. In your opinion, what is the best approach to foster students' autonomy and maintain clear learning objectives?
Yes. So this approach to help students become autonomous.
Foster students' autonomy.
Well, as we always say, the best approach is to be eclectic, to be versatile. We have learned in the teacher training centers lots of approaches, lots of methods. But in each approach, you take what is practical, what is more practical, and apply it. Don't say that this approach is outdated. We can always learn. We can all from classical approaches, and each time we have updated in the latest approaches and methods, but we should never forget those classical approaches, including total physical response, audiolingual methods. Somebody mentioned drills, and it's still practical now. Communicative language approach, in addition to the latest approaches like flipped learning and so on. So being eclectic and taking into account classical approaches and updated approaches can help use different strategies and techniques that each approach or method that each approach is advocating. And here, if we are versatile, if we are eclectic, and if we are selective, we are going to target a large number of students and help them develop. Because here, we talked about learning strategies, and we need to develop some tasks to help students improve those learning strategies, because if they improve, if they empower those learning strategies, they will be able to use them effectively and become more autonomous. In addition to a variety of the teachers should use a variety of materials each time, a variety of strategies and methods and techniques. It's through variety that we can meet various students' needs, and of course help them become more independent and more lifelong learners in the future.
Thank you. Thank you. Based on your experience, what resources would you recommend for teachers wanting to improve their instructional strategies?
What resources?
Yes.
References. That's why at the end I've written here a number of references. Okay. The most practical one is this. The last one, Oxford, Rebecca Oxford, 1990, Language Learning Strategies, what every teacher should know. I think this is the most practical reference for teachers to understand those language learning strategies and see. It's also explained there how to apply them in the classroom. Another one is this one. I hope is it visible there in your? Is it visible in the PowerPoint here? Let's.
I think you are not moving now. Now it's visible. It's, yeah, now it's visible.
So here, the last one, Oxford, Rebecca Oxford. Okay, maybe it's not very visible for me, but I'll try. So here, language learning strategies, what every teacher should know. Okay, the next one is Ellis and Worthington, 1994, which is a summary of research synthesis on effective teaching principles and the design of quality tools for educators. All right. The next one is this one, Simpson, Bachman, and so on. Strategies for efficient and effective teaching. Okay. And the last one is 1999, Carning and Kamini, effective teaching strategies that accommodate diverse learners. I think these are most, and we have others. I think these are selected, very selected reference, very useful one. Kelling, 2006, effective teaching strategy, listen from research and practice. I think these references are very useful for teachers to know. And I said, the most important thing is to pick, because you can read the book, but try to be selective, try to be eclectic, and pick the most important strategies. You should know about them. It's good to be aware of that. Pick each time different strategies that suit different learners.
Thank you. Thank you so much, dear supervisors, Mohamed Abouabdellah. Just another question, which is about Spotlight, since you mentioned it before. In Spotlight 1 and 2, there are a lot of audios. There are students are exposed to several listenings, and if we can say all the lessons included audios. But when we come to assessment, we found that the assessment should be done the old way. So we changed the teaching materials, we changed the guidelines. We are using new techniques and new strategies in learning, but we find difficulties in assessment. Any ideas about how to assess students who are using this Spotlight 1 and 2?
All right. Of course, the new curriculum is still at the experimentation stage. That's right. Spotlight 1 and 2. And maybe last month we were asked to provide the ministry with a bunch of suggestions, modifications. But I personally involve teachers to provide me with a list of remarks, suggestions, maybe something to consider, okay, related to different, be it integrated skills, be it vocabulary in context, grammar in context, be it drop everything and read, story reading, and so on, and assessment. And I managed to get some very practical, insightful ideas from teachers. And we as supervisors, we try to classify those remarks so that they will be taken into account by the ministry to readjust those books so that they can suit, hopefully they can suit students' level and so on next year. So far it's Spotlight 1 and 2. Next year we're going to have Spotlight 3, the next procedure, and then the high school. As far as assessment, we're talking about assessment, especially of listening and speaking. Because so far, especially the formal assessment, quizzes, you have, they are written, be it language assessment on language, or reading, or writing. Same thing for the national exam. Same for middle schools, same for high school. The focus here is on, for the written quizzes, on reading, on language, components means grammar, vocabulary, and functions, and on writing. But listening and speaking is not part of formal one. But of course, we discussed this so many times. But we say we agreed upon the idea that listening and speaking should be part of the oral, of that 40% or 50% sometimes. The speaking and listening should be part of the oral mark or oral grade. So it's assessed formatively. It's kind of formative assessment, though sometimes you can give a chance to students to deliver some presentations, public speaking, you have contests, you have the kind of role plays where you have speaking and listening. Or sometimes you can design to have a kind of listening quiz, which is part of the oral. Students listen or viewing also, view through video and so on, view a dialogue or something, then answer questions. But it should be part of the oral grade. Same thing for speaking, giving a chance to the students to have short talks each time, and delivering presentation is part of speaking. So it should be part of. Let's make it more formative than summative. But sometimes at the end, maybe at the end of the term, when you have some time left, you can turn it into a kind of, let's say, talent show. Show at the level of the classroom or school. It can be also part and parcel of the oral quiz or oral assessment. Okay, students can usually take part in drama, music, in public speaking, creative writing, and so on. You can make use, you can tell them, maybe to motivate them, that these are part and parcel of assessment, which is, in which the focus is on speaking and listening. But also writing can also be an integral part of those of the oral assessment, part of creative projects, poster making, and so on. So you can use that, which are more related to lifelong learning. You can use that to motivate them and tell them that your efforts is not just wasted. It's part of the oral assessment, so that they can be rewarded, because you can have some students who take part a lot, who are actively participate every day, who are very excellent at speaking or listening. But when it comes to written quiz, they may get lost. They may get maybe could not concentrate. They may not do well. So we need to reward those students. Tell them that it's just part of the assessment. It's not everything. Written quiz or global test is not everything. You have also the other part of, because here our purpose is to help students develop communicative competence.
Indeed.
The way we teach should be the way we assess. We teach communicatively, we should also assess communicatively. We cannot teach communicatively and assess out of context or mechanic and so on. So the way we teach should match the way we assess. That's, I think,
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
the
Thank
tip
you so much.
always give to teachers.
Yes, thank you so much, the supervisor, Sir Mohamed Abouabdellah. Sir Abidi, Mr. Abidi Abdul Fattah, any idea or any final words?
I have just one more question to our guest speaker.
Okay.
Given that noise is often a byproduct of active engagement in our classrooms, what strategies can teachers use to ensure that this energy translates into productive learning rather than distractions?
Okay, so are you talking about noise? How to manage
Yes.
noise? Yes. So,
Yes.
well, you have two types of noise. You have the so-called healthy noise, which is the most highly appreciated. That's what we'd like to have in the classroom. Because suppose everybody is silent and the teacher is delivering the lesson, and well, it's quiet. The lesson is quiet. There is no noise. The teacher talking time is higher. Students just listen and write. Is it a healthy classroom? It's not. So having deep silence is not that effective. But to have a healthy noise, which means making your lesson more interactive. I know that if you make your lesson more interactive, there will be noise, especially with large students. But as long as this noise is healthy, learning is taking place, it's great. Okay, that's my view. Maybe you're talking about some disruptive behavior, disruptive noise. Noise means if you have some kind of problems, conflict among students. Maybe this is a challenging issue. If you have just students are talking about something that's different or having conflict and so on, maybe here we need to develop some management skills to reduce that disruptive noise. But as long as it's a healthy noise, students are talking. Though some students are talking in their native language, but we can motivate them little by little to use English little by little. Okay. So I think healthy noise has more benefits than just deep silence and the teacher is speaking and the students are listening and writing and everything is quiet, everything is comfortable. But learning is not taking place as it should be. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Abidi, if you have anything else, you can. Mr. Abidi. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your answer. So, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Go on.
Okay. So, as we come to the end of this enriching lecture, I would like again to express my sincere gratitude to Mr. Mohamed Abouabdellah for his inspiring and insightful lecture, and his passion for teaching and his practical guidance and his willingness to share his expertise with novice teachers and even experts, because I'm sure that there are some attendees who have been teaching for a long period of time. So I would like also to thank all attendees for their active participation. And that's it. The floor is yours, Hmad Benaissa.
Thank you.
Maybe can I have a word before you end, or is that something?
No, there's Mohammed. Any final words, Sir Mohamed Abouabdellah?
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Hmad Benaissa, for inviting me to take part in this webinar organized by Home of Linguistics International Academy in Turkey and by the Linguistic Research and Language Planning team. I'd like to be thankful to all the members of this team. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Abdul Fattah Abidi for coordinating the discussion. And I'd like to be grateful to all the teachers and educators. I notice here we have Moroccans, but we have also other teachers around the world. And for your insightful remarks. It's very useful questions, and your great initiative, contribution to make this lecture a successful one. Thank you so much for your insightful feedback, and inshallah we're going to meet in the upcoming events, be it in person or online. Inshallah, I'm always ready to share my thoughts, my humble experience, be it online or in person, with any organization in Morocco or abroad. Thank you so much, Mr. Hmad Benaissa, and let's call it maybe day, maybe.
On behalf of all attendees, I would like to extend our greatest or deepest gratitude to Professor Mohamed Abouabdellah for this incredible, insightful, and enriching lecture, a rational and interactive lecture. Your expertise on the core principles of effective English language teaching and your experiences within this field of teaching English as a foreign language, from lesson planning to fostering students' autonomy, has given us valuable
My
knowledge.
humble experience. It's just a modest experience, a humble experience.
You shared with us. We learned a lot from your experience, and we are happy to have you, and we are honored to learn from you. And we invite you to coordinate or to deliver another lecture related to teaching in the upcoming events. A special thanks also goes to our distinguished administrative supervisors, Dr. Marwan Sakran, Dr. Safia Kassas, Dr. Abdelkader Ntwati, and Professor Yassin Jamal Idrisi for their contributions and coordination for this lecture, as well as for Professor Mohammed Qaddouri for managing the technical aspects, and Professor Abdel Fattah Abidi for documenting this session. Today's discussion has reinforced that effective language teaching goes beyond methodology. It requires passion, adaptability, and learner-centered approach. So as we call it today, let us carry forward these principles to create more engaging and impactful learning experiences for our students. Thank you all for your participation and engagement and the questions you shared with us. And let us continue this important conversations in our teaching practices. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. Thank you, dear Professor Mohamed Abouabdellah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, and see you again in the upcoming events.
Inshallah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.